Welcome back to the city of Aurelia. I'm Marcus Aurelius, and this is Age of Wonders 3, and this is our role-playing campaign where you, the viewer, makes all the decisions. Sounds like fun to me. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to say that I really dig all of the communication that's going on within the comments of the videos, a lot of the in-character back and forth. I find it really enjoyable. But I do want to say that my highest priority is that everyone who wants to can give their opinion, can make a comment as to what direction we should move in, and that comment can be counted. Now, I've noticed that a couple of you did a lot of back and forth, and it was in character, but it got to be slightly belligerent, and I'm okay with that as long as all of the parties involved are happy about that. But I just want to say, if someone posts an opinion and you don't know them or don't know if they are going to be okay with it, I would really try to avoid being aggressive towards them in the comments. Now, maybe those of you who enjoy that type of roleplay can maybe put something out of character, maybe in parentheses at the beginning of your comment saying, feel free to argue with me in character or something, just so people know that you're all right with it. But I don't want anyone who's following this series and who wants to get involved but is maybe afraid because they don't want to be jumped on by other people who have different beliefs to make a comment. So just try to respect everyone, and I'm totally supportive of roleplay, even aggressive roleplay, as long as all the different parties are okay with it. Sound good? Wonderful. Also, I'm going to be starting to record 2 episodes in a row. So what that means, I'm just trying to speed up the progression a little bit to get us to more cool and interesting later parts of the game. So what that means is this episode will not be a council decision episode. So at the end of this episode, there won't be any decisions for the council to make. That will happen at the end of the next episode. Now, you're more than welcome to still put comments. You're more than welcome to put in-character comments, but just understand that nothing said in the comments of this video is going to affect any type of voting. That will take place in the next video. And I'll be very clear about this, both in the comments and in the videos themselves, which videos will have council decisions at the end of them. All right, well, thank you, and without further ado, let's get started and back into the story. So as you'll recall, in the last episode, Aurelia suffered its first humiliating defeat as the army led by Anya the Cityfeller was felled itself, with many of her units perishing and only she and the cavalry managing to escape. Now, she is on her way now back to Aurelia, but already messenger birds have arrived and the council has had some time to discuss the latest state of affairs. Interestingly enough, while the council was initially incredibly aggressive upon arriving in this new world, now things seem to have changed quite dramatically, with the vast majority of the council, I wouldn't say they've become necessarily peaceful, but they realize that we need to build up our strength both economically and militarily before we can continue being aggressive. Although there still is a relatively minor faction focused on aggressive expansion, led by perhaps Colin Kerr and Mithridates Megas, who don't see this defeat in the previous episode as being something worthy of causing us to take a breath and restock. However, the vast majority of the council did decide to focus on defense and growing our economy. Many suggested we train better troops. Lord Oates suggested that we build a more balanced force with more melee damage dealers and less irregular troops. Lord Venser's prodigy suggested that we build a granary, which is an idea that Frigoberto also agrees with, while Lord Oates once again suggested that we produce a builder's hall, also a very good idea. Also, Lord Tim Redford suggested that we create a law that stipulates that we are not allowed to retreat from any battle. Now, Lord Frigoberto is not necessarily in favor of this. He values a panoply of tactics that can be used in different situations and doesn't like reducing those tactics to few choices, but maybe that's something the council wants to institute as a whole, that's something that we could certainly do. Lord Amir Hassan, as well as others, have suggested that we focus on improving our military strength such that we can field large numbers of cavalry, which is a particular strength of humans. Captain Falat has suggested that we build a library, that we explore the libraries that already exist to the northeast and utilize the secrets gained from that in our quest to provide stability and a lasting home for our people. And finally, Lord Irati 698 has suggested that we learn how to produce berserkers and feels that those would be a real beneficial asset to our nation. Now, on the nature of what is to be done about the hero Anya, Lord Frigoberto was very surprised that the council was almost split down the middle. Almost, but not quite. The faction that wanted to forgive Anya and allow her to learn from her experiences to become a better leader won very, very slightly. However, the voices that were calling for Anya's punishment were loud and numerous enough that Frigoberto has decided to implement a little bit of punishment her way. Particularly, Lord Riel Kratek has suggested that she be confined to the city for a period of 5 weeks, out of character 5 turns, while she gains some humility and learns from her mistakes, and Lord Frigoberto has agreed to that. There were other, more dramatic solutions favored by, for example, Lord Amir Hassan, who wanted her removed completely from active service, and Lord Galreg Helros, who wanted her exiled or even executed. Luckily, he was not in the majority. The final question put to the council, which fewer council members discussed than the other 2 issues, was our relationship with this strange new mana and how we shall proceed with it. And strangely enough, despite what Frigoberto perceived of as hesitation in the first weeks of being here in this land, the majority of the council who had an opinion on this subject strongly wanted us to continue exploring and developing mana and its potential in our quest to, again, provide lasting security for our people. So, that's what we're going to do. Alright, and now moving on to the future. As you can see here, we have a scout still up here in the northeast to the Valley of the Libraries, looking around, seeing what's going on. Some nobles have suggested that we take a look at this area directly to the north of our city. It's mostly mountainous, but I suppose there are some good things to be learned from there. And finally, to the west, we do have a scout, and we have Anya's army who are going to be heading back to Aurelia. We are currently raising militia in the heart of Aurelia itself. Now, I want you to stop for a moment and think about what it would be like to be one of these militiamen. Now, you are not a soldier. You are not a trained fighter. You are a peasant, maybe a carpenter, maybe a blacksmith from Earth. And you are now in this strange world with strange beings, and you hear tales of those strange beings destroying an entire army of ours of trained soldiers, and now you are being asked to arm yourself, to train, and to fight with very little experience. Imagine for a second how that feels. It's one thing to risk your life against things that you understand and are familiar with. That in itself is bad enough. But to have to walk out into an unknown world with unknown enemies, place your life and the life of your family potentially at risk to these forces, is a quite trying and traumatic experience, I would expect. So it's interesting to see how that is going to play out as we move forward. But for right now, we need to get Anya back to the city where she will have her 5-turn house arrest, I guess you'd say. And Frigoberto has mustered up enough men and women to raise a suitable militia, and we're going to do that. Our scout to the west is going to continue past this mana node. The scouts are familiar with the side of the mana nodes now, and they're not quite as awe-inspiring as they used to be. Neither are the pixies guarding them. However, our scout did discover these incredibly tasty red berries that provide them with not only nourishment, but also what appears to be a boost of energy. Our scout now is going to move to the south rather than continuing past the mountains into the forest to the north, because it's more wise, Frigoberto believes, to uncover the area around our city rather than straying too far afield at this time. We see what looks to be very high, icy mountains to the west, and it looks like some mana just lying around for the taking. Not only that, but it appears there is a hostile army here of little people. Our people have heard tales of small fey creatures, but never, ever have we assumed that they might indeed be real. Turns out now that those assumptions are incorrect, and that they are indeed very real, and are wandering around. Looks like they're a war band. Looks like they're not tied to a particular area. The scouts send a bird immediately to warn Lord Frigoberto that there are hostile armies marching about. To the south, they also discovered a tower, another of these strange tall towers. This one staffed by green-skinned, burly humanoids that look quite dangerous. And of course, once again, yet another mana node, this one with a very strange airy feel, guarded by what appears to be a dragon made out of ice and 2 snakes. Very large snakes. Very large and intimidating snakes. Lord Frigoberto is going to stay in the city. However, he is going to attempt to raise yet another militia. Our scout to the northwest will continue around this mountain range here. They don't want to, again, pursue the field too far. They want to circle back and get closer to Aurelia. To the north here, we see a horrible land of stunted trees and black soil, and it appears that some darkness and evil is afoul there. The scouts are going to stay away from it. And to the northwest, we see a strange force. Some of the cat people that Anya lost to earlier, but also more of the pixies. It appears they may be in league. Perhaps the arrival of the Aurelians has caused these creatures to work together in order to stop the Aurelians. Beyond them is a pass leading, the scouts cannot tell, though the water does loop around, so it might not lead anywhere in particular. And finally, far to the west, the scouts see yet another lost library. And Anya is on her way back into the city, and she is back within the borders of the nascent city of Aurelia. And our wooden wall has been completed. So now... the little people have attacked our scout. Well... Our scout will, of course, attempt to flee, but this will be a good intelligence gathering operation here just to see what we're up against. So right off the bat, it looks like these people, while being small, still dress and array themselves similar to humans, except they don't seem to wear shoes. This appears to not be an organized army as such, but rather a group of brigands or scoundrels. And it looks like actually we were wrong. It's not just little people, but also tall, lithe fey creatures that remind our scout a lot of the stories that they heard as a child of creatures such as the Tuatha, the fey creatures of the north. They appear armed with crossbows and giant maces. The little ones here are stouter and more significantly armored than the other ones, and they wield large axes. And these ones here have just very menacing looking cleavers. Definitely not a force that our scouts wish to engage in. And we are going to attempt to escape. Luckily, our scouts know that even if they perish in this battle, they have already warned Lord Frigoberto and the armies defending Aurelia. Not even quite armies when we call them ragtag militia, but still, with the walls, that should help keep us safe. This is the first time, though, we've encountered armies of creatures that are mobile and are able to take the fight to us, and that is definitely something we need to appreciate. Uh-oh, it doesn't appear like our scouts are going to be able to retreat. Nope, doesn't look like it at all. Alright, well, if we must fight, then at least we should find an advantageous position. We don't currently have ranged weapons, and all of our enemies do. We are able to sprint, if necessary. Our scouts are rugged and have high endurance. Let's see what our enemies do. Shoot, they were close enough to, well, shoot. Our scouts are outnumbered, have no ranged attack. Their last hope here is to attempt to sprint up to the enemies and engage them. That's all they were able to do. They're taking full advantage of their ranged weapons and their superior numbers. So, not just a band of mindless barbarians, but tactically superior troops that we must deal with. We were able to weaken this group by about half, but they certainly will be able to heal themselves before we see them again. And one of our scouts has now perished. In Aurelia, we are going to build a builder's hall. And again, we're going to move to the southwest here, into this forest valley, surrounded by mountains. Not really seeing anything new, however. Frigoberto is going to stay in the town for the moment. And Lady Anya the Cityfeller is back within the walls of the city. It appears that some of the citizens have been inspired by our recent losses rather than made melancholy and have offered to join our army. Not bad either. A unit of archers, halberdiers, and long swordsmen. Frigoberto is pleased for their aid. Apparently some of the wealthier nobles, or maybe some of the wealthier merchant families, were able to outfit these men who so eagerly wish to fight. And fight they shall. So Frigoberto is going to leave behind Anya, along with the civic militia, and with his honor guard of swordsmasters and the cavalry, along with our new armed troops, is going to move to the west to keep an eye on this war band. And another militia has been raised. In her 5-week exile in the city, not exile, but house arrest, Anya is going to be asked to continue raising militia. I hope it's not hurting our population too much. Let's take a look here. Okay, so we have a population currently of 1,800 people. We do need 3,000 to grow to the next level of city, and we're currently growing by about 325 people per week, which sounds amazing. Something about this world must lead to increased fertility, because I've never seen any human population grow that fast. And soon, I believe, when our research is complete, we will have other tools at our disposal, and we'll be able to utilize our mana to encourage even more fertility. Our scout's going to head back. What do we see here? This is a dark, imposing place. We have what appear to be carrion birds and crows, but they move as if they have some level of sentience, which is incredibly frightening to our scout. He sent one of his non-sentient birds back to Aurelia to alert Anya and the council about this. And he's going to move away to the best of his ability. Over here we have creatures that look like reptiles taking human form, and they are guarding a gold mine. And this is a very disturbing sight. It appears that this gold mine is actually being guarded by human soldiers. Now, whether these are people that were on kind of the outskirts of Aurelian society and have moved to the north by themselves to take control of this gold mine on their own, or even more strange, a group of humans that came here before the citizens of Aurelia, which in a way is bad, but in a way it's also good because it shows Frigiberto and the council and the people of Aurelia that there might be other means of traveling from this world to their own world, and they may have a chance, some of those who desire to get back. Regardless, though, we cannot allow any humans to stand against our nation, and so they must be taken care of earlier rather than later. Anya raised another militia. And not a moment too soon, it appears, because it looks like that group of brigands... Actually, this is a different group, because they now have some of those cat people. What a strange panoply of races we have here. And we have learned more about utilizing this strange substance called mana into encouraging our population to be a bit more frisky. And that looks like something that we should probably do. And we are going to research berserkers, as the council suggested an interest in that. Frigiberto's not going to take any chances. He's going to move back to the city and engage this group. We outnumber them by quite a large amount, and Lord Frigiberto does not believe there will be much in the way of trouble. The Lady Anya was allowed to leave the walls of the city to participate in this battle. The council saw the wisdom of that. Potentially recognizing the danger that the Lady Anya poses, the enemies moved against her first, an act that they will suffer for. Oh, they've actually injured her quite a bit. She's lost a lot of her agility, so she'll have to utilize her musket once again. Nice. Now, Anya's troops are mostly civic guard, so they're not super impressive, but they are fighting to defend their families and their home, so certainly that will impact their effectiveness. And one group of these scoundrels has been laid low. They have ranged weapons and we do not, so our long swordsmen are going to engage as quickly as possible, along with our swords masters and their lord, Frigiberto. But Frigiberto is not invincible, and so our cavalry is going to move in to assist him. And our archers are going to be following slightly behind. Everyone's kind of steadying themselves to defend whatever is coming. Frigoberto's in kind of a bad way, actually. And he needs to get out of here, as he shall. A bit too aggressive in the defense of his homeland, but we certainly can't afford to lose our leader at this early stage. Archers, do your thing. Our longswordsmen cut through them like a hot knife through butter. These creatures may be strange, but they are certainly not invincible. Okay, the Lady Anya is actually going to move up now. But it looks like our Civic Guard will be more than enough to take these remaining foes out. And if they can't, our cavalry certainly will. And the city of Aurelia has been successfully defended. The people breathe a sigh of relief, and maybe it appears the luck of the Aurelians is turning, and that we, once again, will be able to claim our destiny in this land. But that is all for this week, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, just as a reminder, this is not a council episode, so there will be no decisions to make. That will happen in the next episode. But I hope you stay for the next episode, because hopefully we'll be able to expand our borders a little bit. So once again, I am Marcus Aurelius. Thank you very much for watching this roleplay campaign of Age of Wonders 3 and participating. Kudos to you for participating. Have a good one.